Mezi velkými dopravními letadly se měla v neděli 16. ledna 2022 objevit na pražském ruzyňském letišti i 19letá pilotka Zara Rutherford, která je na cestě kolem světa vstříc novému světovému rekordu, jakožto nejmladší pilotka, která obletěla planetu v ultralehkém letadle. Zařina cesta kolem světa začala už 18. srpna 2021 na jejím domovském letišti v belgickém Kortrijk. Omlouvám se za výslovnost, belgicky neumím. Za necelých 5 měsíců proletěla 50 zemí, 5 kontinentů a z České republiky už to domů do Belgie má jen 2 vzlety a 2 přistání. Novináři v Praze se Zary bohužel kvůli špatnému počasí a nízké oblačnosti nedočkali. Mladá pilotka s belgicko-anglickými kořeny musela proto divertovat do Benešova. Počasí bohužel neumožnilo ani druhý den pokračování v její cestě za rekordem, a tak se jí v pondělí 17. ledna zajel do Nesvačil vyspovídat. Úplně na začátek mě samozřejmě zajímalo, jak těžké bylo pro Zaru rozhodnutí nepokračovat domů, kde už se na ní všichni netrpělivě těšili.
It's annoying, it is frustrating that I can't go today, but I mean at this point I'm quite used to just always being delayed. So it's one of those things, whether I'm home today, whether I'm home tomorrow, in the grand scheme of things it's not that big of a deal. I think there's a few people there who are going to meet me, which is really fun, and then my family's there obviously, so then I'm just looking forward to seeing them again and actually getting home. I've been delayed all the time, sometimes by a few hours, sometimes by weeks. I was stuck in Alaska and Russia for a month. So yeah, I think that's one of the challenges of flying VFR around the world. Is you really just have to wait for the weather to be good enough. So I was flying from this city called Magadan, further south to Ekimchan, and this was Far East Russia. And I was flying along, and the weather just wasn't very good. So I decided to divert into Ayan. And Ayan is a tiny town, about 800 people. Nobody speaks any English, no Wi-Fi really. And so I landed there, and then the weather was just really bad. I think by that point winter had really kicked in, and so it was either just the weather being really bad or just very strong wind. Yeah, so these are the first ones I got in Greenland. This was Canada. These are all from the US and like New Mexico. These two. This is the first flight, so where the Wright brothers. There's an air bubble, which is annoying. This is Alaska. I really like this. Take the long way home because that's kind of exactly what I'm doing. This was Seattle, where I met a female flight engineer, and she would do these crazy, just insane things with Boeings, like a Boeing 777, where she'd be doing 0G stuff, 90-degree turns, stalls, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Zara si pro svůj oblet světa vybrala ultralehký letoun Shark ze slovenské Senice. Proč ale padla volba zrovna na tento stroj?
So at the time that I decided to fly around the world, I only had a microlight license, so I had to fly microlight, and then the Shark is the fastest microlight in the world, so that was a pretty easy decision to make. And so then we went out to Slovakia to their base in Senice, and actually spoke to some of their team to try and discuss whether it'd be possible to get sponsorship from them and have them actually loan us an aircraft at no extra cost, and they agreed, so that was great. So then I was able to fly around the world in the Shark and in return hopefully give some marketing. This is yellow brick satellite tracking, and then I use this Iridium satellite communications, and these were working really well, especially in like Russia and then over long water legs when I'd lose radio contact for hours and hours, and I could use these two. There's a few extra things that were added for me specifically. One was a backup radio, just in case one were to fail. I got another one, and one huge thing was a turtle pack ferry tank in the back, and that allowed me to take realistically about 50 liters extra. You could add up to 90, but because of center of gravity limits, I could only take 50, and then with that I could fly 12 hours straight. I had some minor issues. I had a blocked pitot tube in New Mexico, which I found out after I took off. So that delayed me a couple of days just to try and fix that. But then otherwise it was pretty good. On Christmas Day I had a flat tire as well that I had to fix in Singapore. But other than that, I was really happy with the engine. Did great the whole way, and so I can't complain.
Trasa jejího letu by měla být dlouhá přes 50 000 kilometrů a tak mě zajímalo, zda si let plánovala sama a jak moc se měnil s postupem času.
The route, so at first when I decided to do this, the route was like the first thing I did, and that was, I looked at the Guinness World Record requirements. One of those was crossing 2 antipodal points. You know what that means is 2 exact opposites. And you can choose any 2 points on the planet. And I chose Colombia, Tumaco, Colombia at the time, and Jambi, Indonesia. And those are 2 exact opposites. In the end, it didn't quite work out. I ended up in Quibdó, Colombia, and Jakarta, Indonesia. Once I had that, I could basically choose my route. The only other requirement for me, like safety-wise, was that I had to cross the Atlantic and the Pacific through the north. So to cross the Atlantic, I went Scotland, Greenland, Canada, Iceland, as well. And to cross the Pacific, I had to go through Alaska and Russia. And otherwise, it was up to me. So I literally just grabbed the pen and the world map, and I just drew the route I wanted to do, and that was it. It has changed quite a bit. Obviously there were some small diversions, so minor changes, and there were some slightly bigger changes, like I'd never got to Tumaco in Colombia, which was southern Colombia. Instead I got to about central Colombia before the weather just wasn't good enough to try and head further south. And then I was also supposed to fly through Mongolia and China, and that never happened. So because of COVID's rules, if I wanted to fly through China, that would involve 5 weeks of quarantine, which I wasn't quite prepared to do. And so instead I went through, again, Far East Russia into Vladivostok, and then from there I could go into South Korea.
Na své cestě zavítala i do míst, kde se letiště hledá velice obtížně a kde nejbližší přistávací plocha je hodně tekutá. A jak na tyto situace byla připravena?
The day before I left, I went up to Amsterdam, and they have these, I think it's called Dunker training, where they simulate what it's like for, I think there was a helicopter, but it's kind of similar, they simulate a helicopter being underwater, and then you're strapped in by the seatbelt, and you have to undo the seatbelt and then climb outside of a window or something, which is kind of scary because having a seatbelt on you when you're stuck underwater and it's pitch black, it was quite interesting.
V České republice se o Zaru postarala letecká škola FR. Kdo další ale pomáhá s pokusem o zápis do Guinnessovy knihy rekordů?
Yeah, sometimes I'll meet different people that can help me at each location. Other times, usually when I'm diverting and nobody's expecting me, there's nobody there. So then it's really just kind of up to me to sort things out. So I do have a support team back home. They've been helping me with the weather and just general paperwork, flight organization, press, social media, things like that. Without their help, I could not have done this.
Létání je v jejím případě pouze jedna část celé akce. Zara si musela rychle zvyknout na obrovskou mediální pozornost a to nemusí být úplně každému příjemné.
Yes, I mean the flying is pretty tough, so then interviews are usually okay. Yeah, I think it's safer to do an interview than flying, so I'm usually quite happy to do interviews.
Yeah, and do you feel some pressure on your person?
I mean, definitely. Of course, the whole thing is being sponsored. I'm not paying for this myself, and so these companies have expectations for me to fly around the world. And I mean, it's taken me longer than I was hoping. It's taken me 2 months, about almost 3 months longer, I think. So yeah, so the pressure is annoying, but at the same time, I'm not going to risk my life because someone wants me home early. I'm making sure that I'm doing this safely.
Zara Rutherford chce být příkladem pro mladé lidi, kterým chce ukázat, že v životě není nic nemožné. Z Benešova domu do Kortrijk v Belgii je v pondělí 17. ledna schází už opravdu malý kousek světa. Pokud se chcete dozvědět více o jejím počinu, můžete navštívit webové stránky www.flyzolo.com. A na sociálních sítích ji naleznete také pod označením flyzolo. Pro vaši informaci, Zolo je složenina z prvního písmene jejího jména a slova solo. Slovem solo se totiž označuje první samostatný let žáka po dokončení leteckého výcviku. Pokud budete mít chuť a čas, tak Zaře napište vzkaz na její sociální sítě. Určitě jí to potěší. No a já se budu těšit opět příště u dalšího leteckého videa.